What if I told you that you're punishing yourself every time you get angry at someone else? That the person who cut you off in traffic, the coworker who took credit for your work, the family member who said something hurtful, they're living rent-free in your head while you're the one suffering? An enslaved person who became one of history's greatest philosophers discovered something that will completely change how you handle difficult people. Epictetus spent years in chains, physically powerless, yet he developed a method for emotional freedom that's more powerful than any external circumstance. I will show you his revolutionary approach to anger that transforms you from a victim of other people's behavior into the master of your emotional state. This isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about understanding why anger is the most self-destructive emotion you can experience. Epictetus wasn't born into philosophical luxury. He was born into slavery in ancient Rome around 50 AD, owned by Epaphroditus, a wealthy and notoriously cruel freedman who served Emperor Nero. For the first 30 years of his life, Epictetus had no control over where he lived, what he ate, when he slept, or even whether he lived or died. But here's what makes his story extraordinary. During his enslavement, Epictetus became permanently disabled. Some accounts say his master broke his leg in a fit of rage. Others suggest it was an accident or illness. Regardless of the cause, Epictetus walked with a limp for the rest of his life, a constant physical reminder of his powerlessness. Most people would have been consumed by anger, resentment, and bitterness. Epictetus could have spent his life raging against his circumstances, his master, and the injustice of his situation. Instead, he made a discovery that would revolutionize how we understand human psychology. He realized that while he couldn't control what happened to his body, he had absolute control over how he responded to what happened to his body. This insight became the foundation of his philosophy. Epictetus didn't focus on political revolution or social justice when he was freed and became a teacher, though those might have been justified. Instead, he focused on the one revolution that was always available: the revolution of the mind. His teachings on anger weren't theoretical. They were forged in the crucible of suffering, powerlessness, and injustice. When Epictetus tells you that anger hurts you more than the person you're angry at, he's speaking from experience. He had every reason to be angry, and he discovered why choosing anger would have been choosing to remain enslaved, even after his physical chains were removed. The fundamental insight: why anger hurts you more. The self-destruction principle. Epictetus made a startling observation that modern neuroscience has now confirmed. When you're angry at someone else, you're the one who suffers the most. He writes, "How much trouble he avoids, who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." Think about what happens when you get angry. Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure rises, stress hormones flood your system, your thinking becomes clouded, and your decision-making becomes impaired. Meanwhile, the person you're angry at might be completely unaware of your emotional state, leaving their day unaffected by your internal turmoil. Epictetus realized that anger is fundamentally irrational because it punishes the wrong person. It's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. The person who wronged you experiences none of your anger's adverse effects, while you experience all of them. But the damage goes deeper than just physical stress. Anger corrupts your character, clouds your judgment, and turns you into someone you don't want to be. Epictetus observed that when we're angry, we often say and do things that violate our values, damage our relationships, and create new problems worse than the original offense. The attention hijack. Epictetus understood something that modern psychology calls attention hijacking. When you're angry at someone, you give them control over your mental resources. You think about them when you should be thinking about your own goals. You respond to their actions when you should be planning your own. You let their behavior determine your emotional state when you should be deciding it yourself. He writes, "Wealth consists in not having great possessions, but few wants." The same principle applies to emotional wealth. Emotional wealth consists of not controlling other people's behavior, but of not needing to control other people's behavior to feel good about yourself. Every moment you spend angry at someone else is a moment you're not spending on your growth, goals, relationships, and happiness. Anger is the ultimate distraction from the life you want to live. The character corruption. Perhaps most importantly, Epictetus recognized that anger corrupts your character. When you're angry, you focus on revenge, punishment, and proving right. These motivations turn you into someone reactive rather than proactive, destructive rather than constructive, bitter rather than wise. He observed that people who habitually indulge in anger become angry people. Not just people who occasionally feel angry, but people whose entire personality becomes shaped by resentment and reactivity. They cannot respond thoughtfully to situations and instead react automatically with hostility and defensiveness. This character's corruption is the real tragedy of anger. It doesn't just make you feel bad in the moment. It gradually transforms you into someone you wouldn't choose to be if you were thinking clearly. The root cause. The judgment that creates disturbance. The opinion revolution. Epictetus's most revolutionary insight about anger is this: men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Your anger isn't caused by what other people do. It's caused by your judgments about what others do. This seems counterintuitive at first. When someone insults you, cuts you off in traffic, or mistreats you, it feels like their action is directly causing your anger. But Epictetus points out that if their action automatically caused anger, everyone would have the same emotional response to the situation. Since people respond differently to identical conditions, the problem itself can't be the cause of the emotion. The real cause is the judgment you make about the situation. When someone insults you, you might judge, "This is terrible. I don't deserve this. They have no right to treat me this way, or I must make them pay for this." These judgments, not the insult itself, create your anger. The judgment audit. Let me show you how this works practically. Think about the last time you got angry at someone. Now examine the judgments you made. Judgment 1. This shouldn't have happened. This judgment assumes you have the power to control other people's behavior. But Epictetus reminds us that other people's actions are not within our control. Getting angry about things outside your control is like getting angry at the weather. It's irrational and ineffective. Judgment 2. They did this to hurt me personally. This judgment assumes you know other people's motivations and that their actions are primarily about you. But most people's behavior is driven by their needs, fears, and circumstances, not by a desire to harm you. Judgment 3. I must respond with anger to maintain my dignity. This judgment assumes that anger is necessary for self-respect. However, Epictetus argues the opposite. Allowing other people's behavior to control your emotional state is the ultimate loss of dignity. Judgment 4. If I don't get angry, people will walk all over me. This judgment confuses anger with appropriate action. You can set boundaries, protect yourself, and respond firmly without being angry. You can do these things more effectively when you're not angry. The reframing process. Once you understand that your judgments create your anger, you can begin to change those judgments. Epictetus developed a systematic process for this. Step 1. Pause and identify. When you feel anger rising, pause and ask, what judgment am I making right now that's creating this anger? Step 2. Question the judgment. Ask yourself, is this judgment necessarily true? Are there other ways to interpret this situation? Step 3. Choose a more rational judgment. Replace the anger-producing judgment with one that's more rational and serves your well-being better. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic instead of judging, "That idiot did that on purpose to disrespect me," you might judge, "That person is probably distracted, in a hurry, or didn't see me. Their driving has nothing to do with me." This isn't about making excuses for bad behavior. It's about choosing interpretations that serve your emotional well-being and allow you to respond more effectively. Practical techniques for emotional regulation. Technique 1. The dichotomy of control. Epictetus's most famous teaching is the dichotomy of control, distinguishing between what is up to us and what is not up to us. When dealing with difficult people, apply this framework. Not up to you. How they behave, what they say, whether they like you, whether they treat you fairly, whether they acknowledge their mistakes. Up to you. How you interpret their behavior, how you respond to their actions, whether you let their behavior affect your mood. What boundaries do you set? How do you protect your well-being? When you feel anger rising, ask yourself, am I trying to control something that's not up to me? If yes, redirect your energy toward what is up to you. Technique 2. The view from above. When someone's behavior triggers your anger, Epictetus recommends taking what he calls the view from above, imagining yourself looking down at the situation from a great height or distance. From this perspective, ask yourself, will this matter in a year? Is this worth sacrificing my peace of mind? What would I advise a friend in this situation? How will I want to respond when I look back on this? This technique helps you gain perspective and respond from wisdom rather than emotion. Technique 3. The premeditation of evil. Epictetus regularly taught his students to imagine difficult situations before they occur. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. By mentally rehearsing how you want to respond to difficult people, you're less likely to be caught off guard and react with anger. Each morning, spend a few minutes imagining potential challenges. What if my coworker takes credit for my work again? What if someone is rude to me in traffic? What if my family member makes that comment that always triggers me? Then, mentally rehearse your ideal response. This mental preparation makes responding thoughtfully easier when the situation occurs. Technique 4. The discipline of desire. Epictetus taught that we suffer when we desire things that are not up to us. Much of our anger comes from desiring that other people behave differently than they do. Instead of desiring that difficult people change, practice desiring only what is up to you. Instead of, I want them to treat me with respect, try, I want to respond to disrespect with dignity. Instead of, I want them to acknowledge their mistake, try, I want to focus on my own actions and choices. Instead of, I want them to be different, try, I want to accept them as they are, while protecting my own well-being. Technique 5. The objective representation. When someone does something that triggers your anger, practice describing it in purely objective terms, without emotional interpretation. Instead of, that jerk deliberately humiliated me in front of everyone. Try, that person spoke to me in a loud voice and used words that others could hear. Instead of, she's trying to sabotage my career. Try, She made a decision that affects my work situation. This technique helps you separate facts from interpretations and respond to reality rather than to your emotional story about reality. Modern applications and case studies. 29 minutes. Case study 1. The difficult boss. Mark's boss regularly took credit for his ideas and criticized him publicly, using Epictetus's approach. The dichotomy of control. Mark couldn't control his boss's behavior, but he could control his response and career decisions. Judgment revision. Instead of, "My boss is trying to destroy me," Mark chose, "My boss has his own insecurities and management style that doesn't align with my values." Practical action. Mark documented his contributions, set appropriate boundaries, and eventually found a position with a company that better matched his values. Case study 2. Family conflict. Sarah's mother constantly made critical comments about her life choices. Using Stoic principles, view from above, Sarah realized that her mother's comments came from love and worry, even if expressed poorly. A discipline of desire. Instead of wanting her mother to change, Sarah focused on responding with patience and setting gentle boundaries. Result: their relationship improved as Sarah stopped taking the comments personally and responded with compassion rather than defensiveness. Your anger transformation challenge. Here's your practical challenge for the next week. Day 1-2, anger awareness. Notice when you feel anger rising and identify the specific judgments creating that anger. Day 3-4, dichotomy practice. Identify what is and isn't within your control for each anger trigger. Day 5-7, response choice. Practice choosing your response to difficult people based on your values rather than emotions. Remember Epictetus's profound insight. You are not a victim of other people's behavior. You are the author of your own emotional experience. The person who masters their response to difficult people has achieved freedom that no external circumstance can take away. If this video helped you understand how to handle difficult people without losing your peace of mind, hit that like button and subscribe for more ancient wisdom that transforms modern challenges. Next week, we're exploring how Carl Jung's shadow work can make you more emotionally resilient. Insights that could revolutionize your relationship with difficult emotions. Comment below and tell me, what's one situation with a difficult person where you're ready to apply Epictetus's approach? I read every comment and often feature the most insightful responses in future videos. Remember, it's not what happens to you, but how you react. You can choose your response. That's a freedom no one can take away from you.